Hi everyone, it's Michelle. Welcome back. So today I thought I would do another what I've been reading video. It's been several weeks since I've done one, and I've gotten through 4 books that I will share with you, and I liked a lot of them, so definitely excited to share them with you. I'm going to try and get through this video. For those of you who don't know, we recently rescued a dog, and that's what's kind of gotten me off my filming schedule because she takes a lot of time and she has to be locked up right now when I'm not watching her 100% of the time. So we'll see if she'll stay quiet so I can get through this. Let's jump right in and get started. The first, in no particular order I suppose I should say, one of the books I read was Illumination Night by Alice Hoffman. This is actually a relatively old book. I probably should have that information in front of me. I think originally published maybe in the 80s or something. Yeah, like 87. Alice Hoffman has written a lot of novels. This is the first one of hers I think that I've read though. It's the first one I remember, and this was recommended to me by one of the people who work in one of the independent bookshops that I shop at. So I really enjoyed this book. I will read you the blurb and then I'll tell you what I thought. Beginning on the night of the grand illumination, a festival of lanterns held each summer on Martha's Vineyard, this novel is a modern chronicle of marriage and a bittersweet exploration of an extraordinary passion. Illumination Night follows the lives of a young blonde giant who is as beautiful as he is frightening, an old woman at the end of her life whose last mission is to save her granddaughter's soul, a family torn apart by a wife's fears and a husband's unrealized desires, and the high school girl who comes to Martha's Vineyard against her will, who steals the husband and the cars, and who will bring everyone together in a web of yearning, sin, and ultimate redemption. So that's a pretty good description of the book. So there's a couple who live in a house. Next door to them is a older woman, lady at the end of her life who needs someone to care for her. So her granddaughter comes to stay with her, doesn't want to, but comes to stay with her to help take care of her. The granddaughter is still in high school. And then there is they call him a blonde giant. I guess he is a giant, but not like an ogre giant. He's just a really tall, large person, younger person who has been, in hiding on Martha's Vineyard for a very long time, and he's part of the story as well. I actually really liked this story. It is a story, like it says, about a couple who is trying to hold it together. The woman has fears of leaving her house. The husband has desires for other women. The old lady is trying to figure out how to save her granddaughter and how to continue to survive because she's really old. And this giant becomes intertwined in the story as well. So this is a really good book. It's not like a mystery. It's just sort of a story about life, the life of these people and how it evolves. And I think it's a good representation of how we are who we are. And sometimes you can't change that. And when people force you to change it, doesn't always work. And even when you're not even when good things come to you in life, when you're not ready for them, it doesn't do you any good, that kind of thing. So this was a great book. I highly recommend it. I do want to read some more Alice Hoffman. Again, Illumination Night. And you should be able to find this at your library or pick it up relatively inexpensively because, like I said, I think it was originally published in the 80s. Okay, next I read The Silent Sister by Diane Chamberlain. This book I picked up at Target. Whenever I'm at Target, I always go through the book section, and I try not to buy any, but I had seen this a few times and read the back a few times, and I really wanted it. So I picked it up and read it, and I will read you the blurb, and then I will tell you what I thought. Riley McPherson has spent her entire life believing that her older sister Lisa committed suicide as a teenager. It was a belief that helped shape her own childhood and that of her brother. It shaped her view of her family and their dynamics. It influenced her entire life. Now, more than 20 years later, her father has passed away and she's in North Carolina cleaning out his house where she finds evidence that what she has always believed is not the truth. Lisa is alive. alive and living under a new identity. But why exactly was she on the run all those years ago? What secrets are being kept now, and what will happen if those secrets are revealed? As Riley works to uncover the truth, her discoveries will put into question everything she thought she knew about her family. Riley must decide what the past means for her present and what she will do with her newfound reality. So then it just talks about the author's prose. So this was a really good book. So this girl has grown up believing that her sister, who was a young teenager at the time, committed suicide. And she's grown up her whole life thinking that. You know, her mom died a while ago, now her father has passed, and she's there to clean out the father's house. And she finds evidence that Lisa is really still alive and didn't in fact commit suicide. And it's sort of her figuring out why she would have done that and if that's true. And then, you know, all of the people involved in that and what it means and what will happen if she goes to find her. What if people find out, you know, she's really alive? What does that mean for her life and the author's life, or the writer's life, Riley? So this was a really good book. Lots and lots of twists and turns in this book. You know, the ending was a little, not the ending, but sort of as things develop, some of it is a little bit surprising. It wasn't something I was thinking. But very, very good. Very good. I highly recommend this book if you like sort of those types of mysteries. And there's a lot of really interesting characters in here that did some things, you know, to help the situation and not to help the situation and that kind of thing. So I love this. Okay, the next one I read was a book called Keep Me Posted by Lisa Beasley. This is a relatively new book. So I got my hands on a advanced reader copy, or actually this is an uncorrected proof, but the book was published on April the 5th. I think this might be her first book. I think it might be her first book. I'm not sure. I do think it's her first book. Anyway, so let me tell you what this book is about. I don't even really need to read the back to you. So this book is about two sisters who are living apart. So they're both adults. One of them is the mother. You know, she's married and she's the mother of a small child, and she lives in New York City. And the other one lives in Thailand, is it? Singapore. She lives in Singapore with her child and a husband as well. I believe that child doesn't belong to that husband, but that doesn't really matter within the story. So the girl who lives in Singapore is sort of shuns all social media. She doesn't want anything to do with social media. And her sister, the one in New York City, you know, lives for social media, and her, you know, she lives for Facebook and her iPhone and all her apps and that kind of thing. And they're together at one Christmas, and they decide that, you know, they miss sort of the bond that they had as younger sisters when they were, you know, teenagers and that kind of thing. And so they decide they're going to start writing physical letters back and forth to each other so they can get closer again. And they start doing this. Well, the Cassie, she's the one who lives in New York City. She decides she's going to, she wants to preserve the letters. So she's going to upload them onto a private blog just so she has them. So later in life they can share it with their children, and their children can get to know the moms and that kind of thing. So she does that. And, you know, they tell each other things. They're, you know, sisters tell each other everything. And, you know, so they say things they don't want other people to know and that kind of thing. Well, they come to realize that the private blog that these letters are being uploaded to is not private at all. And the two sisters, the sister in Singapore doesn't even know that the sister in New York is uploading them. And the sister in New York does not know that the blog is public. And she reads about the blog in a magazine because it's gone viral and everybody wants to know who these two sisters are. And, you know, there's no, their last names aren't there, but their first names are. And so, you know, people in their family eventually learn about it because it's really gone viral. And, you know, the people in the family kind of know who it is because they can tell by the names and that it has to be these girls. And so all of this information about both of them becomes public information. And it's sort of how they deal with that, what happens to you know, their relationships as some of that information becomes public, and, you know, as the husbands read that information and as the members of the families read that information and that kind of thing. So this is an interesting twist on a book, because this is an interesting story. This is something that could totally happen. Like, I could see this happening. Someone's uploading, you know, these letters to keep for later, and it, you know, somehow it gets out there on the internet and it goes public. But I don't know. I didn't like the main character. So I didn't like Cassie. I felt like she whined and complained about so many things, and the things she did in her life, caused me not to really like her. So when this happened to her, I was like, serves you right. So for me, that's one of the reasons I didn't like the book, because as it was happening, you don't really like her, because it's like, stop whining. Like, look how blessed you are. Stop complaining about things. I can't believe you did that. Like, what? Your husband is a great guy. Like, why are you doing that? Those kinds of things. So I didn't really like it because of that. I did like her writing. It was very easy to read. You know, it's told in, you know, there's some narration and then the letters, and so you're kind of reading the narration and then you're reading the letters that come back and forth to them and that kind of thing. But it is a story of how this happens to affect the family and the sisters, and how can everybody come together in the end, and what does that mean. So for me, just okay. I don't know that I recommend it, but if you like that kind of thing, you know, you might like the book. It kept me interested somewhat, but again, it was hard for me to like the main character in the book. It was hard for me to like her because of how she was or who she was. So, and lastly, I saved the best for last. I read The Gates of Evangeline by Hester Young. This is a mystery set in the South. I will read you the blurb and then I'll tell you a little bit about it. When New York journalist and recently bereaved mother Charlie Cates begins to experience vivid dreams about children in danger, she's sure that she's lost her mind. Yet these are not nightmares of a grieving parent. They are warnings that will help her and the children she sees, if only she can make sense of them. After a little boy in a boat appears in Charlie's dreams, asking for her help, she finds herself entangled in a world-famous 30-year-old missing child case that has never ceased to haunt Louisiana's prestigious DeVoe family. Armed with an invitation to Evangeline, the family's sprawling estate, Charlie heads south, where new friendships and an unlikely romance bring healing. But as she uncovers long-buried secrets of love, money, betrayal, and murder, the facts begin to implicate those she most wants to trust. And her visions reveal an evil closer than she could have imagined. So, this is a really, really good story. First of all, it happens in the South, on an old family estate in the South, which in and of itself becomes a character in the book. I love reading about the South, the people of the South, that kind of thing. So that to me made this even better. But this is about a journalist. So she is a journalist. I believe she lives in New York when it starts. She's lost a child, is in the process of a divorce or is divorced from her husband. And she has the opportunity to go down and investigate or write a story about this DeVoe family and Evangeline. Evangeline is the name of the estate. And so she takes she needs to work, so she thinks this will be a good opportunity for her to get away. And she goes down there. And, you know, all along she's been having these visions, or they come to her in her dreams about these children, and then she'll see something and realize that she saw that in her dream like something she sees on the news. So she's starting to think that she can see things or sense things. And so when she goes down here and starts seeing and sensing things, the story develops even further. And while she's down there, she meets a guy who's working on the estate as well. You know, and she hasn't had a relationship with a man in a long time, and she starts falling for him, and then, you know, maybe he gets pulled into the story a little bit, so now she doesn't think she can trust him. It's a great story. You know, it's about the DeVoe family who, this is all fiction, you know, so there's generations of this family have lived on this estate. The mother of the family is dying. The children really just kind of want her money. but the mother wants, you know, more than that for her estate. She doesn't want the kids to just sell off the estate. There's generations of families who have worked on this estate that are involved and still there. So there's lots of history going on. This was a really good story. It was a great mystery about, it was well told. There's lots of twists and turns. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of, well, what happened before, and there's a lot of, you know, unique characters. You know, it's set in the South, so there's a lot of unique characters, unique things that happen. Southern people tend to protect other Southern people, you know, and when families work for this family, they become protective of this family, and so she's struggling with that a little bit. And so, you know, there's a lot of work to get to the end of the story, but so good. I highly recommend The Gates of Evangeline. This is a relatively new book. I think it was published last October, so it's only available in hardback, but you probably could find it at your library if you don't want to buy it. Again, The Gates of Evangeline by Hester Young, probably my favorite of the four that I read. This and The Silent Sister, both very good books. So that's what I've been reading. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you've read any of these books, let us know in the comments what you thought. Please, no spoilers. Also, if you have any great books that you've been reading and you want to share them in the comments, I know everybody loves to read what everybody's reading and what they thought about it. So that is it for today. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day, and I will talk to you all again soon.